Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the Guilty as Charged podcast, coming to you live after a Chargers win in Denver for the first time since 2018. I was a senior in college the last time that happened, so it's been a minute, and I'm sure we'll have a lot of things to take away, but that needs to be said. This is a place that the Chargers have really, really struggled to win games in, and it was a little close for comfort, but in the end, Chargers come out victorious 23-16. Joining me is my good friend Tyler to break it all down. Tyler, how are you doing today?
Doing very well. As I mentioned before we started, that was almost a completely different game, but a win is a win. And we will, I think, start positive on this post-game reaction. But we have a lot to get into because that fourth quarter also happened.
Yeah, we can talk about the fourth quarter for sure. I think the right place to start with this game might be Justin Herbert's return. I don't know how you feel about like the first three quarters pitching a shutout on defense, but I want to start with Justin Herbert because I think this. Oh, some people saying that Simi Fehoko might have torn his ACL. Is that for real?
I mean, he looked like he got hurt on that fumble, but I don't recall there being a limping off or carting off issue. But it didn't look great.
Yeah. The injuries in this game were insane. Ladd and Quentin were in and out. Trey Pipkins in and out. Rashawn Slater in and out. Simi Fehoko, that situation. Christian Fulton in and out. Dean Leonard out. It was rough. And we can talk about all of that. We spent a lot of time yesterday talking about Chargers injuries, and it might be worse heading into next week. But first things first, I think the reason why the Chargers have a win today is the way that Justin Herbert played, specifically on third downs. I think that is the story of the day for me on the Chargers offense. I thought overall the offense looked a lot more cohesive. It looked a lot more like the Chargers had an actual plan today for like what the Broncos were doing on offense. But you know, I thought this was a fine Greg Roman. The first half was Greg Roman performance. The first half was great, but to me, this was a Justin Herbert bailout game. And up until like the very end of the game, I thought this was his best game of the season, easily for me. He ends up with 237 yards and one touchdown. So not like lighted up numbers that we're used to seeing. This is not obviously like the Vikings game from last year. But in terms of mitigating pressure, in terms of making plays, in terms of putting points on the board, you know, like that drive where he created that field goal drive basically just by being accurate under pressure. I think it was so good to see him throwing with a level of confidence and rhythm that we have not seen yet, at least since the Panthers game in the first half when he was injured. So it's been a minute since we've seen a true Justin Herbert performance, and I think this is, you know, the right way to start the game. So Chargers putting up 23 points. If this were last week or the week before and Justin Herbert was dealing with the ankle injury the way that he was, I think the Chargers probably lose this game. I think this is probably a game where they just cannot really muster anything on offense. So for me, I think healthy Justin Herbert showing again that he can make these kind of plays under pressure, you know, putting the ball in the right spots all game long. I think that's the reason why the Chargers put up 23 points today and ultimately resulted in a Chargers victory.
Yeah, that is why this game, I know it wasn't incredible numbers like you mentioned, but there were some fans who were kind of out on Justin Herbert and his fit in this offense. Oh, he's just supposed to manage a game.
People talking about he was cooked and all that.
Yeah, all that stuff. And the way he played today, whether it's sack avoidance or making decisions under pressure or whatever it was, like he looked so much better today than he had for several weeks. And it's no surprise. I mean, he had the bye week. He's not dealing with the same severity of high ankle sprain. And he had both of his tackles, which was a surprise to me this morning. We knew one. I didn't know Slater was going to be out there today, although he was in and out of the lineup today. So we'll get into all that eventually. But Herbert just looked so much better today. And the way he played today in Denver against, now I know there was no Pat Surtain, but what was a top 5 defense and with a lot of, you know, solid talent around that defense, the way he played in Denver today, like you said, they don't win if he doesn't perform like that. I know the second half, or really mostly the fourth quarter, wasn't great, but that wasn't a Herbert thing. You mentioned the field goal. Like that might have been a deciding factor in the way the rest of the game was played. And that was largely on the back of one, how he played at quarterback, and also how Vlad McConkey just came back into the game after his third injury and found a way to help move the chains as well. So really gritty, tough performance from Herbert in this offense. Sure, a lot to build on, but he was much better today, and it looked great.
Yeah, you mentioning the injuries. I mean, I don't think Quentin Johnson really played a whole lot in the second half. Vlad McConkey was tested for a concussion, came back in the game, then was dealing with an oblique hip injury thing the rest of the game, and was consistently making clutch plays. We're doing screen passes to Wildesi because Hayden Hurst is no longer in the game. It just is gritty is the right way to say that for the Chargers offense. At the end of the game, when the Broncos knew that the Chargers were going to run it, J.K. Dobbins pops off a 25-yard gain, and it was that kind of day for the offense. It was make plays when you have to, and yeah, it's not going to light up the board. It's not 40 points or whatever. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers scoring 51 today, crazy. But the Chargers offense played, I think, their recipe of offense where you make plays when you have to. You grind the clock. Time of possession in the first half was crazy. It was like 21 and 5 seconds to 7 minutes. It was crazy. So the Chargers did enough on offense where they were able to build a lead in the way that they want to play football. And that 10-minute drive, I would have loved it to end in a touchdown. But it's a 10-minute drive, man. Like that kind of stuff on a day like today, when we were so concerned about their ability to potentially like move the football consistently, it's huge. I mean, we mentioned in the preview, they just needed a couple big extended drives, hopefully some touchdowns, and that was probably enough. And today, that was enough for the Chargers offense.
Yeah, if that 10-minute drive is a 5-minute drive, the Broncos, they don't opt for that field goal at the end of the game. They just probably score because the momentum was completely on their side. The Chargers lost 4 of their corners. They probably score. Maybe they don't need to, onside kick. All they need is a field goal to get back into it. I mean, that clock killing drive was huge for them. So, I don't think their intention was to score as many points as possible in the second half. Sure, you'd like to see it. Hello, the Detroit Lions putting up on the Cowboys in Dallas.
Yeah,
but they made it work. And I think, the first play of the game was insane for the Chargers because Harbaugh leaves. And again, like, I hope Harbaugh is okay. I didn't realize this was something he had been dealing with for a while, the irregular heartbeat and such. But Harbaugh's gone. Quentin leaves. The next player on that series, McConkey goes out. Hurst goes out. Their tackles are already kind of dealing with some injuries. Trey Pipkins is out. Rashawn Slater's in and out. No Gus Edwards. Not that meant a whole lot, but still, like, another guy's not out there. And they just kept churning through at least 3 quarters of football. So that was still very impressive. I know the outcome wasn't great, but it was good to see them look so tough and fresh in Denver.
Yeah, I mean, the offense went through it, defense went through it. The injuries today were crazy. And I know, like, there's going to be a lot of complaining about the way that the fourth quarter looked, and I understand, but this is a 23-16 game that previous Chargers teams lose 10 times out of 10, and we've seen that several times in Denver come to fruition, whether it was Drew Lock or Joe Flacco or whoever was playing the quarterback position for the Denver Broncos. Certainly some things that the defense, I'm sure, is going to want to clean up. I mean, the best offense that the Broncos had today was Bo Nix scrambling, and the Chargers left at least 4 sacks out there on the field because they just were not able to get him down, whether that was Bud Dupree, Derwin James, Khalil Mack could have had a chance, Morgan Fox had a chance. So it kind of felt like that was the method for the Broncos to get back into the game. And unfortunately, when you are playing down 4 cornerbacks, you can't really dedicate resources to spying the quarterback because you have to dedicate those resources towards protecting your rookie cornerback. So again, I know people are not going to be super happy with the way the fourth quarter looked, but the context of that game is you're down all 3 starting cornerbacks on your defense, and your 4th, Dean Leonard, was not really able to play today. He gave it a go on special teams, and then I think in like the second quarter, that was pretty much it. So you're playing Tariq still on the outside, and you're playing Cam Hart on the outside, and then you're playing Derwin James in the slot. It's tough to really make plays as a secondary when you are dealing with those kind of injuries. And to the Chargers' credit, The Broncos had 0 points and 47 yards passing through 3 quarters. So to me, I'm taking more positives than negatives from the way that the defense played today, even though they gave up 16 points in the fourth quarter and made them sweat a little bit. I mean, anytime you can pitch a shutout through 3 quarters, that's a great defensive performance for me. So my advice here is don't let the fourth quarter damage the entire performance from the Chargers defense today to the fan base who are kind of going to be complaining about the way that it looked in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I think the only real complaint from fans regarding the defense in the fourth quarter, and maybe even the whole game, was just not being able to finish some of those sacks. Like you mentioned 4. If you told me it was 8, I'd believe you.
It was a lot.
Derwin almost had him, but Dupree almost had him 3 separate times. Thank goodness for that Denzel Perryman 2-point conversion play to prevent that.
Hell of a play.
A heck of a play. But Bo Nix give him some credit too. Like he couldn't to save his life for most of that game, but the running was pretty impressive in that fourth quarter. So some credit there for sure. He did have to escape several plays. I know Chargers fans aren't going to want to hear it, but about midway through that fourth quarter, I was starting to think about Joey Bosa. And we mentioned how you couldn't trade him anyway because no one really wants that contract. No one wants to really deal with that. The Chargers probably part ways with him next season, and I would imagine that they do. But this is a game you need Joey Bosa. These games like this are why you need Joey Bosa out there. Now, who knows when he's going to return? It seems like next week could potentially be that time, but watching Dupree, watching this rush, it just wasn't there in the fourth quarter, and this is when you need someone like Joey Bosa.
Yeah, and not even just Joey Bosa, man. Like they don't have a second interior pass rusher. And so when you're 4 guys who the Chargers go to this package of the 3 edge rushers, Khalil, Bud, and Thule, and then Morgan Fox, that's your 4 main defensive linemen. And they were on the field the entire fourth quarter trying to rush after Bo Nix, who's scrambling left and right. You get tired, man. And if those are your only 4 guys who can create pressure, that's taxing on a defense. So Joey Bosa needs to come back very, very soon. They need another interior pass rusher, somebody who can consistently make an impact other than Morgan Fox. They did have 5 quarterback hits, 2 sacks on the day. I think the pressure numbers are going to be really, really good. It's just they probably should have had 6 or 7 sacks today. But it just was one of those days for Bo Nix, who, like you mentioned, he does also deserve some credit here. So the defense, I thought, played for the most part outstanding football today. And I'm really excited to see what the all 22 shows, because every time on the broadcast, they showed a video, the Chargers cornerbacks, even the young guys, and obviously Durham playing in the slot, the linebackers, they were always really keyed in onto what the Broncos were doing up until the very end of the game. And Cortland Sutton's a good football player, man. Like, he's torched the Chargers in the past. So stuff like that is going to happen from time to time just by not having the kind of players that you're used to in that altitude as well, which is a huge factor as well.
Yeah. Nimba Sabe, I think we've said your name several times, still can't get it right. He asked if Boygby even played. Based on the snap counts on PFF, no. And then for what it's worth, Scott Matlock only played 6 snaps on defense and only 4 of them as a pass rusher. So they, other than Morgan Fox, they have a great set of run defending guys out there. Yeah. And Fox is like, fine, whatever. But they're more intent on stopping the run, but they're these big 300+ pound guys. And in Denver, like, Poona Ford's awesome, and I respect his effort, but these guys can't just keep running after Bo Nix for an entire fourth quarters as, guys that aren't exactly supposed to be doing that as much. Yeah. They need a pass rusher on the interior for sure.
Yeah. So I think it was just kind of a bad mix of game script for the defense in that moment where Bo Nix is scrambling around. There's just a ton of scramble drills. That's tough to play with your starters, right? When you're down the guys that they were down, it's tough. I think overall, like we mentioned, we picked the Chargers to win, but we were expecting a very low scoring game. And the Chargers defense, like I mentioned, through 3 quarters, you get an interception from Elijah Molden on the first passing play of the game. Khalil Mack forces a fumble, which then leads to the most hilarious big man gritty of all the time. You called it the McGritty, which was fantastic, by the way.
I deleted it. I felt bad.
Oh, no. The McGritty I thought was hilarious. But the Chargers defense played exactly how we would have hoped them to play. You forced 2 turnovers, few 3 and outs, few sacks through the first 3 quarters. Gave the Chargers a couple short fields. I thought the defense, for the most part, was outstanding today. I am concerned about the injury report, specifically at cornerback next week. Because the Arizona Cardinals, they also have a quarterback who can scramble and make things tough on you.
Yeah, great. And they only have Lamar Jackson later on, and yada yada. So, yeah, unfortunate there. It's tough because Asante Samuel Jr. is just flat out for at least 3 more games. We'll see with Christian Fulton, and that's also part of the the scrambling and such. Fulton, I don't know how many quarterback tackles he's made on scrambles. I don't think they had as many opportunities as they had today. But Fulton's been one of their best tackling DBs, period. So I think him being out there would have helped. He's not out there. That's a concern. Dean Leonard is a great tackler, not out there. So yeah, I'm praying for this secondary group because not that the Cardinals are great on offense, but Murray can buy time, and a 4th overall pick is coming to town next week. Or sorry, they're gonna have to go to Arizona and face that guy.
Yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. in concussion protocol for what it's worth. So that could make things easier. But they have Trey McBride's a good player. They have I forget his first name. Wilson.
Yeah, that good, huh?
No. He is a good player. Michael Wilson. I just was blanking on the first name.
Yeah,
Michael Wilson is a good player. Dortch is a good player. So the Cardinals have some other good pieces. So it's not just Marvin Harrison Jr. down there, but it's Cortland Sutton and Devon Bailey, who I love, made some good plays today.
Yeah, chill out, dude. Like I liked Bailey quite a bit, and like obviously you knew who he was immediately, but I didn't need that prior confirmed today, man. What do you have? 75 yards? Calm down, dude.
Yeah. Did he have 75 yards?
It felt like he had 2 million yards.
4 receptions for 78 yards. Good for Devon Bailey, man. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Hopefully, Dean can come back. We'll see what happens there. But if you're going to be playing next week with your 2 rookie cornerbacks and DiCaprio Boodle as your main corners, it's going to be tough. The Chargers pray for some positive cornerback help this week because they do not have a ton of depth on the practice squad to pull from either.
No, and I'm trying to think of even anybody from the preseason who stood out on the Chargers.
Well, Hankins was the guy who stood out in the preseason, and they decided to cut him. He's not even on the practice squad right now. Well,
welcome to the Chargers this week, buddy. I think Brandon Faison got cut, right? What's he up to these days? I don't know.
Casey Hayward's out there.
Oh, yeah. Hey, I'd be down for it, whatever. He's younger than Tony Jefferson? I just don't know if he is or not. It's got to be pretty close. Yeah, I remember the Stephon Gilmore discussion. And he's not a free agent, but it was really slim pickings, I feel like, for corner out there on the free agency market. So I don't know who's even left out there if they really need somebody. Yes, J.C. Jackson. Isn't J.C. Jackson suspended, or am I crazy?
He is suspended. So if they wanted to sign him, they could not. He could not play this week anyway. Casey Hayward is older than Tony Jefferson for what it's worth.
By what, a couple of years?
Yeah, 2 years.
Okay. Yeah, I don't. Praying for health. The good news is they went out and drafted 2 corners, so that's great. They have Tarney still. They have Cam Hart. They could probably make it work against, I don't know, Spencer Rattler and a couple of these guys, but praying for better returns. Yeah,
for what it's worth, I do think Tarib Still and Cam Hart played pretty well today up until the very, very end of the game. Tarib Still, the pass breakup deep, which forced the Broncos to punt, was fantastic. Cam Hart had a couple really, really good tackles. So I'm curious to see what the tape says ultimately of what the Chargers did from a health perspective. But on the broadcast view, I thought those 2 played pretty well today.
Yeah, no, they did, especially in that first half. I wasn't sure about Cam Hart. Now, I liked him as a tackler, and then he played in the preseason, had some awful tackle attempts. Yeah, and I got nervous, but he showed up today. I think through the first quarter, I think he had 3 tackles on separate plays, and you're thinking okay, that's great. I don't need him to be a world breaker by any means, but contributing immensely was awesome there. What was I looking for? Coverage matchups. Sorry, I'm just trying to float through PFF to see if I'm just curious how these guys did. So Still gave up 55 yards, not bad. Derwin 55 yards. Where is Cam Hart? Did Cam Hart not get targeted?
I guess not.
Still, Derwin, Gilman, Perryman, Fulton, Henley, Colson, Molden. Huh. I don't see any catches allowed by Cam Hart. So, hey, pretty good.
So Jim Harbaugh is doing his press conference right now, and this Alex Insdorf is tweeting out the stuff. Jim Harbaugh says he has had an atrial flutter episode today, and that his heart got back into normal rhythm after he walked off the field. He jokes that he was not medically qualified to talk about it, but he's 2-0 with arrhythmias. He says he had another arrhythmia during a Monday Night Football game in San Francisco. That's the most Jim Harbaugh quote I've ever heard in my entire life. That is fantastic.
Oh my gosh. Hey,
2-0 versus arrhythmias is the most Jim Harbaugh line ever.
Oh, that's so funny. 2-0 with arrhythmias. Oh my gosh. Hey, good for him. But I'm at least, not that I'm glad he has it. I'm glad that it's been a thing for him before, and this isn't like a sudden thing for him.
Yeah.
It seems like it was very quick. He came back. I don't know what happened, like when it specifically happened. I don't know if he was feeling it before the game, and then it just kind of like, I don't know how he notices it. I don't know if he's got something on him that tells him. But yeah. That was very scary at first.
Yeah, so he says that he felt an arrhythmia last night and then again during the pregame warmups. And so during the broadcast, he told apparently the CBS reporter that this is something he's been dealing with off and on for a while now. After the game, he said that this is the first time he's felt it since that 2012 Monday Night Football game for the San Francisco 49ers. So I don't know where the mix-up happened there. But obviously, great news that Jim Harbaugh is feeling okay. I'm wondering if like the altitude has been maybe had something to do with this today also. But obviously, great to hear that he was able to come back. I was a little nervous there for a little bit because he leaves, and then there was a thing that the Baltimore guys were saying that John Harbaugh got a call and like ended his press conference immediately, and I was like, oh, like this is scary, but. Obviously, Jim Harbaugh is able to come back in the game, able to coach the rest of the game. So fantastic news there. Hopefully, he's able to be okay. But it was looking dicey, and I was like messaging one of my other friends who's a doctor, and I was like, "Hey, what's going on here with this situation?" And luckily, before he responded to me that he was scared, I was like, "Okay, Jim Harbaugh comes back out there," and I was good to go. So hopefully, this is. Again, a situation where he can go another 12 years without another episode like this. But yeah, it was a scary start to the game for Coach Harbaugh.
Does Jesse Minter get a win as a head coach? Did we see?
I don't know how that works. I don't know.
Did he get like 0.01 wins? Yeah, that's true. I don't know how that works.
I don't know. Well, we've been talking now for 24 minutes, and we have yet to talk about the Kimani Vidal touchdown. His first touch of his career in the NFL goes for a touchdown. You love to see it. He didn't really have a ton of opportunities today in the backfield, but he gets 2 catches, 40 yards, the 1 touchdown, 4 carries, 11 yards. Some challenges in the pass protection game. But a solid debut for Kimani Vidal, and I hope Alex is okay after that touchdown.
I mean, that wheel route, it was awesome as is, and great from Herbert. Like all around, that was fantastic. But I think what was most telling and most obvious, you can't run that with Gus Edwards. You just flat out can't run that.
I don't think you can run that with J.K. Dobbins either. For what it's worth.
Yeah, and that's not Edwards' game. That's not why anybody wanted to sign Edwards. I totally get that, but that's a completely different dimension to your offense. And it was awesome. That was fantastic out there. Odd seeing a pass catcher catch a big pass like that in Denver wearing the number 30. I had to like do a head fake there for a second.
Yeah.
But that was awesome. The rest of the game wasn't like particularly awesome. He had one run, I thought, like solid contact balance. There just wasn't a lot there for him. Dobbins is, clearly right now a better run creator. But honestly, it was awesome just to see him out there. Your first touch being a huge touchdown on a sick route in Denver in a win. That's fun. So I was happy to see him out there. And going into this game, Gus Edwards had 2 receiving yards. I think Vidal got 2 just on his second reception alone. But then, of course, had the big other touchdown reception as well. So he finished, 4 carries, 11 yards. Not fun. I think one of those was just like or maybe 2 of those were just like get 1 more yard chain mover kind of plays. So the average is kind of whatever. We need more sample size for that. But 2 catches for 40 yards. That's awesome. I think Dobbins coming into the game had 50. No, I think he had 46 yards coming into the game. Vidal just in this game had 40.
Yeah, so Vidal's going to play for the next 3 games after this. If he can give them some juice as a pass catcher, which we have been waiting to see if any of this running back room could kind of, be that guy. Even if he's not somebody you can hand the ball to, 8 to 10 times, which I think he could be. I think he is. But the game script, obviously, the Chargers wanted to put this game away in the hands of J.K. Dobbins, and they were very, very close to doing that. But if he can just be a consistent third down weapon for this team, that just it changes the offense, because third down has been such an issue for this offense heading into today. And then today they were able to be 11 of 18 on third down, and 2 of those were just kind of throwaways.
Yeah.
So either way, man, 11 for 18 on third down is huge for this offense if they can consistently go out there and do that, as opposed to, I think heading into today, they were like 27%. They were one of the worst third down offenses in the league. Today, you get 11 for 18. Huge change for this offense.
Yes, I want to try to go through and see who caught the third downs, but they spread the ball up quite a bit today. So Quentin caught the first one. McConkey caught the second one. Oh, I guess he didn't convert, but he did catch it on third down. Palmer caught one. I want to say,
I think Palmer had 2.
Yeah, Palmer had another one. Haskins converted running. Stone Smart had one. 3rd and 8 was defensive pass interference, so sure, that counts. Was Simi Fajoko's catch on third down?
It was.
So yeah,
hell of a catch, man. That was insane.
I know. I thought I understood how he caught it on the first watch, but then watching the replay, I had to do a head fake because it's like I had to watch it 3 more times. Really impressive. Yeah, 10 for 13 at some point. One of those third downs is just like they're running it out with J.K. Dobbins.
Yeah.
So it was awesome. Like much better today. Shocker, Herbert healthy, tackles out there, even Palmer being healthier. Big stuff.
Yeah, I think this has the makings to be a real confidence booster for this Chargers offense. You go into Denver against that defense, you put up 23 points, you run the ball for what was it? I just had it up. 128 yards. J.K. Dobbins almost goes for over 100 yards. Your passing attack looks so much better. The pressure numbers are not necessarily, elites, but they're not as bad as they have been. Obviously, the Broncos got home a few times on some cover 0 looks, but overall, the offense was just so much more in rhythm today. You get multiple extended long drives. Next week, you play the Cardinals, who are a bad defense. You play the Saints defense, who just gave up 51 points to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You play some other defenses that are not necessarily great. And then you get back to the Ravens and the Chiefs and things like that. But by that point in the season, hopefully this offense is just into a rhythm. DJ Chark comes back potentially. Maybe you go make a move at tight end or something like that. Vidal is a consistent pass catching weapon. I think this game has the chance to really service the Chargers offense as a momentum game that they can build off of, gain some confidence, and just put together some really, really strong performances over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think so. I think especially because I know they didn't score much in the third quarter, but it really felt like a 3-quarter sort of performance. It really felt like but with Greg Roman before, it felt like you get to 10 points and that's kind of all I got. It really felt like they had plans and they executed for most of the way. So you can definitely absolutely build on this. I loved more of the aggression from Justin Herbert. It's his highest ADOT or second highest ADOT of the season. And I think just, again, the throw to Simi Fehoko, the throw down the sideline to Ladd McConkey, that was incomplete. But they're just like trying to push it, trying to be a bit more aggressive, open things up a bit. I like that. Whether it's, successful or not, it's fine. I just appreciate them trying.
Yeah. Anything else in particular that caught your attention today, Tyler, that you wanted to bring up?
I mean, we kind of already mentioned all the rookies. I'm just impressed by a lot of these rookies for stepping up today, but we kind of mentioned them already. We knew they were going to have to play. I didn't realize how much they would have to play. I'm curious how pass protection's currently looking. The what's it called? Not inconsistent grades. I mean, they are the tentative or whatever, temporary
live grades.
Sure, there you go. 15 pressures allowed. Really felt like the second half was more of a floodgate. Yeah. 3 by Zion, 3 by Bozeman, but we'll see. These ones they change too much.
Yeah, the live grades changed quite a bit.
Yeah,
I think there were a couple of times where the running backs had some tough pass protection reps, which is
definitely
a little strange because both of those guys I think are really, really strong pass protectors. You know, J.K. Dobbins has had he has had a couple of rough moments, but there were times where the Broncos were able to get an edge rusher on one of the backs, and then that's when the pressure was able to get home. Or in the first half, really the only time that the Broncos got pressure, I felt like, was that one the sack that ended the 10-minute drive where Zach Allen looped all the way around, and I think J.K. Dobbins was running a route and ran like right past him, and then Justin just didn't see him. So I thought for the most part, the offensive line, the protection plans were really, really good. But then in the fourth quarter, you could feel that Vance Joseph was just like, I have to make some plays here, and I'm just going to go cover 0, blitz 8 guys as much as I can. Like there was one play where the Chargers had both tight ends staying in to protect along with the 5 offensive linemen. And they still created pressure just because there were so many guys coming. So it was a tougher fourth quarter, but I think overall, when you kind of zoom out and look at the way that they protected, I was generally okay with it. And like you mentioned, obviously having Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater back out there helps a lot.
Yeah, way cleaner operation. I don't even know if did they have a false start?
No, they only had 3 penalties on the day.
Yeah, really, really clean operation overall. Just going back to the defense real quick. Definitely, if you're curious, like how frustrating it was to watch the Chargers get pressure, but not a sack. They generated pressure 25 times, but they only got 1 sack on the day. So gotta convert a couple of those.
Wasn't it 2 sacks?
PFF has 1.
The box score has 2 sacks.
Who is it? Fox for sure.
Fox and Alohi Gilman. Oh, was that like a time where Bo Nix ran out of bounds?
Was that maybe it was like a scramble sort of thing. Didn't count. Okay. Not quite a self sack. Yeah, maybe.
Must be. Okay. Either way, 25 pressures and 1 sack. That's tough.
But pressure again, good, but
tough to spy the quarterback also when you can't.
Do you want to jump into this real quick? Richie's asking why you wouldn't blitz a rookie quarterback like crazy. 2 times they did. Nix was erratic. Why let him get comfortable? Do you feel, I mean, they've been playing kind of more conservative as is, but do you feel that's more of a halo, we're out of our 4 corners sort of thing?
Yeah, 100%. Like you just mentioned, the Chargers have been playing a little bit more conservative as is. When you're down your 4 starting cornerbacks, like it changes everything drastically. So there were a couple times where Deion Henley was essentially like working like 15 yards down the field, like trying to protect coverage. So there was one time where the Chargers went into a dime situation and all 4 safeties were on the field at the same time, AJ Finley being the 4th one. Does PFF have how many snaps AJ Finley played? Because it felt like a lot because they were trying to protect those guys on the back end.
Yeah, I can try to I got to get there.
Sorry.
Very good.
On the spot.
So AJ Finley by game. By the way, this is the most pressures the Chargers have had all year. So even I think you trust your rush. Like the rush was getting there. They just so conservative is fine.
Job,
yeah. Defensive snaps for AJ Finley. 8.
Oh, okay.
Tart only played 15, by the way. I know you wanted to see more of him.
And he had some awesome moments too. So
he did.
I would love to see Tierra Tart get out there more often. But yeah, I think the defensive game plan, like once you lose Christian Fulton, it's like, okay, we just got to like play back. And, they trusted their rush to get home and they got 25 pressures out of it and 1 sack, which is unfortunate. But, for the most part, I think the game plan overall was smart. Like people in my mentions were like, why are they playing like Gus Bradley? I don't think they were playing like Gus Bradley. It was not like prevent defense.
No, they won the game.
And they won the game also. Speaking of, Gus Bradley allowed a 3rd and 29 conversion go for a touchdown. So that's fun for him. But I thought the game plan was sound. It's just the pass rush was not hitting home. But you look at the box score and it looks like Bo Nix, played his ass off in the fourth quarter, and he deserves credit for it. But I just think it was just it's really difficult to play defense in the NFL when you're down to your fifth, sixth, and seventh string cornerbacks on the starting lineup, as we saw in the second half.
Yeah, which is why, we'd advocated for corners, and we're currently advocating for a corner early in this upcoming draft. Like, the defense is playing great, obviously, but you can tell, and we're feeling it, that maybe there's something else there they could do, but that's going to require a few more, better corners. Respect to how they play. I'm not saying they're bad or anything, but if you want to see that aggression, also need the coverage behind it.
Yeah. Jim Harbaugh says that he is going to follow up and see his cardiologist tomorrow, for what it's worth.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's Ben Herbert. No, I'm kidding.
What did you make of the Cortland Sutton touchdown?
It was incorrect, was what I made of that one. I don't know. If I'm in the stands and it's SoFi and it's a Chargers, touchdown, I'm kind of like, I don't know. But as an opposing fan, watching it in the comfort of my home, yeah, I thought it was awful. How did you call that a touchdown? I didn't get it. It was cool. It was almost an incredible. I mean, it was a touchdown, but it wasn't. But it was a great catch, sort of. But it clearly looked like to me that he didn't have control of it until it hit the ground. So whatever. And then Broncos fans were booing the Josh Palmer defensive pass interference or holding call, where it's like, okay, man, like you can't have it both ways, guys.
Yeah, I mean, the defensive penalty that it did result in a turnover being wiped off the field, which if I were at the game, I 100% would have been mad as well. But when Jason or Devin, I don't know which McCourty twin was doing the game, but the McCourty twin that was doing the game was like, yeah, this is a penalty 100% of the time.
He's like, I hate saying it,
and he's a defensive back. He had played in the NFL for a long time. I thought it was very obviously a penalty when they showed a replay of it on the broadcast. But I think the Cortland Sutton touchdown, if it had been called incomplete on the field, it would have stayed incomplete. I just think they didn't have a clear enough view to overturn it once they called it a touchdown. Like to me, it was like you can never really see a clear possession of the football, and then he fell to the ground. So it was a tough spot for the refs to be in, for what it's worth. But to me, that was a incomplete pass all day, because you don't ever see him get the control, but at the same time, you don't see him lose the control. So to me, that's an incomplete pass. And Gene Steratore also said that it should have been incomplete. But the ruling on the field matters a lot in those situations.
Definitely. And they were driving, again, a lot of momentum on their side. Defense gassed out of this. Like they score 2 plays later. So it's not, and again, it didn't matter in the end. The Chargers won.
Yeah.
But that was a very obvious one to me. And it's a bummer that because I really wanted that shutout. They were just so close to pitching a shutout.
Yeah.
And then it definitely almost became not even close to a shutout. But
yeah, that one definitely sparked them a bit in that offensive performance for sure. Okay, I think we've covered a lot. I do want to say J.K. Dobbins deserves a lot of love today.
Yeah.
I'm excited to watch the film back, but there were 2 or 3 runs that he had that were 8, 9, 10 plus yards that could have easily been tackles for loss. So I was a little concerned about, the previous 2 games, him pressing and him trying to do too much. Today, I thought he was patient. I thought he was physical. I thought he was explosive. So I would have loved to see him get over 100 yards because it was that kind of day for him. But I thought he was fantastic. I thought the run blocking was a lot better today overall. So J.K. Dobbins definitely deserves a shout out, as Kevin Kernick points in the chat, man. The vision sometimes is just kind of crazy. And then the big run in the 4th down, staying inbounds at that moment. I know the Broncos had a timeout, so the clock did actually stop. But so many running backs in that situation go out of bounds and allow the Broncos to keep that timeout. So it's a little detail that matters a ton. I thought J.K. Dobbins was fantastic today. So shout out to him for his performance.
Yeah, you might think that clock management stuff like that is just so obvious to an NFL player. But we just saw Alohi Gilman today do an entire like circle stand up on a player for like 10 seconds, which was clearly a delay of game, which stopped the clock. So not everything is obvious. J.K. Dobbins, you look at the stat sheet, 3.8 yards per carry, 25 carries, 96 yards, whoop-de-doo. Looked a lot better than that, obviously, watching the game. And some of the context is just running out the clock, which kind of sucks because it's just a garbage time, average killer. But hey, he performed well today. I don't know what it was this week. We can bug whoever about it. But I think last game against the Chiefs, it was 0.3 yards before contact for the Chargers offensive line, like allowing contact basically immediately. This week, it felt like he had more time to be more patient, to see what was in front of him. And clearly the performance was much better.
Yeah. So I know that there's going to be a lot of reactions about the fourth quarter, but to me, the first 3 quarters were, this is exactly the kind of team the Chargers want to be: physical on offense, physical on defense, protect yourself in the secondary. Protect the ball. They won the turnover battle today, won the penalty battle today. That's the kind of team that this offense, this defense wants to play like, and they deserve a lot of credit. And again, 23-16 in Denver, huge potential chance to build some momentum for the Chargers here on out. Any final thoughts before we get into some of these super chats? And
yes, what did you make of Greg Roman really feeling himself throughout this game, and then that loss of 6 drop play, which everyone is like, all right, calm down, calm down, man.
The draw was like, okay, it took, like, draws take a long time to develop. That draw felt like it took like 3 seconds to develop. I'm like, okay, are you gonna go? Like, what's happening here? But yeah, I thought on the day the offense was planned properly. There's a lot of misdirection, crossing routes. They threw a football vertically to Ladd McConkey for the first time, which of course it's this game when he's like going through a head injury and a oblique injury and all this stuff. But I thought there was a good mix of passing and rushing. It was not super obvious that they were running or passing at any moment. I thought overall Greg Roman was this today for me was probably the best Greg Roman game, because the Panthers game was a lot of fun to watch on tape, but it was like inferior opponent. Like you go run the football and you can dominate. Like this one, to me, I thought there were, generally speaking, a lot of good answers for what Vance Joseph was doing. Protection was sound for the most part. Run game was fun. Passing game was fun. So I liked the way that Greg Roman called the game today.
Yeah, I agree. Watching the Chiefs game back, we saw the creativity, just the execution stunk. Today, more creativity and some better execution.
Yes. We have Alex Insdorf in the chat after doing all the press conferences, which we greatly appreciate. He says, Kimani Vidal. That had to be so awesome for all of us on the podcast, because we all wanted Vidal, and then the Chargers drafted him, and he plays really good in his first performance.
No, it's kind of been a nice little priors, confirming season so far for the draft. Like Joe Alt, great, awesome. McConkey playing great, awesome. Want to see more from Colson. I'm not worried about that. There's a defensive lineman who's not doing so hot, but we didn't love the pick there anyway. But Cam Hart, Vidal, good stuff, man. Like a really, really solid draft class.
Yeah, 100%. All right, we'll get to some of these super chats here. First one from the Fit Freestyle Kid. He says, Kimani Vidal, RB2. Yes. Excited to see what it looks like in kind of a more positive game script setting for him. We did also get a couple, like fullback dive plays from Hassan Haskins, which were cool. Both of them worked. So Darius Davis got a couple of touches. Again, I thought the plan for the run game was pretty sound today. So, but Vidal definitely should be RB2 going forward. And certainly playing on third downs quite often.
Yeah, I don't mind the rushing splits. If Haskins has maybe another couple of carries, then Vidal, that's fine. Clearly, as a pass catcher, though, Vidal should be involved. Loved the usage of Darius Davis today. Didn't break anything, big, but looked healthier, like just from a perspective of like angle breaking speed. Looked better. Special teams overall, I think, was really good today, except for the illegal formation, which I don't know the rule.
Yeah, they didn't show it on the replay either. So people were asking me, and I'm like, I don't know. Like, they didn't show what happened. Yeah. So Austin Xavier here in the chat had quite a productive day on the gambling side of things. He selected Vidal as the first touchdown prop bet of the day. I won't share specifics, but he DM'd me about it. And congratulations on the nice little payday for your faith in Mr. Kimani Vidal.
Wow. One, bold, but that's what I wouldn't have gone that direction, but I also didn't win big today. So, hey, congratulations.
Yes.
If you're sending us 50, I'd imagine you won a little more than that. So congratulations.
Yes, it was. He messaged me about the odds. The odds were good. It was a good day for Mr. Austin Xavier, and I appreciate him sharing that with some of us in the form of super chat.
Thank you.
The fit freestyle kid again. McConkey's new nickname is the Mad Lad.
Does he force a missed tackle on every catch? Like,
oh, dude, it's crazy.
It's like every single time he forces a miss or gets just a little bit more or just slides right past the defender. A couple of rough, like, falling angles today that really seemed to strain his lower body or his midsection.
Yeah.
But, man, there's that one third down catch. Another 2-3 forced misses today. I mean, what he's able to do after the catch, it looks like what he did in college. And it just put the ball in his hands. Yeah. There was that third down. I was bummed that it was tipped because he beat his guy off the line. And it looked like he had a lot of yards to go after that. But just super positive. We have yet to see a McConkey disappearance game at all. So he's just been awesome.
Yeah, he finishes with 4 catches, 43 yards on 8 targets. So, again, not the craziest day from a production standpoint, but just solid and efficient, playing through the injuries, tough as nails, which we knew at Georgia he played through injuries and he wants to block, he wants to be physical. I was fully convinced that when he caught that pass, his first catch in the red zone, that he was going to score. And then unfortunately he ends up getting, hit in the head, which I think should be reviewed from the league. I think that was definitely a lowering of the head launching standpoint from the linebacker who hit him in the head. But I thought he was going to score. Like that's how I feel about Ladd when he gets in those moments. Like I feel like he's going to make people missing and make a big play. So it says a lot about the kind of player that he is already, that I at least am feeling that he is capable of making a big play for this team anytime he touches the football.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that play. I'm stunned he didn't score given what he's been able to do otherwise. He's been amazing. So right now, unofficially, 2 forced missed tackles on the day. I think both might have been on that same play. He's got 19 catches so far. And does it show it yet? What does show? 6 forced missed tackles. That's it. Get out of here.
That should be way more.
Yeah, fine. I refuse to believe it. I refuse to see it. Still waiting for that 100-yard game, though, man.
Yeah. Hopefully he could play next week because the Cardinals, it's a juicy matchup. Their secondary is quite the opposite of the Broncos secondary.
Yes, definitely. Unhappy Romeo Dubs came and had 2 touchdowns and 100-something yards today.
Yeah.
So yeah, exciting.
I don't know if there was a question attached to this super chat from John Nersesian. I don't know. I apologize for saying that. But John, if you do have a question and you're still in here, feel free and fire away. If not, we do appreciate the super chat.
Yeah, very kind of you. Thank you, John. Good first name. Also a good middle name.
Yeah. John is the name of both of our fathers in here. So there you go.
Oh.
Did you not know that?
Is it Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt?
No, it's John Hoken Haglund is my dad's name.
That's actually kind of sounds good. John Hoken Haglund is pretty Stoke.
That Swedish middle name, man.
Yes. My dad got Richard, so
my grandpa's name is Richard.
My grandpa's name is also Richard. Are you Chinese?
No, definitely not.
Sure?
Definitely not. I don't think I've mentioned this on the show, but juniors is a huge thing in my family. So my oldest brother is John Hoken Haglund Jr., and then his son is John Hoken. His first son is John Hoken Haglund III. My grandpa, his name is Richard. We're at Richard the VI now in my family because the oldest son has a son, son. Yeah. So it's a big deal in my family to do a junior or a third or fourth or whatever. So
yeah. All I know is my first son's middle name is Tyler. That's our tradition.
Your tradition is to do the name as the middle name then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Brooke is not willing to do Steven Jr. I think I might be able to convince her to do something Steven as the middle name.
Kimani. Yeah.
Kimani.
Senio.
Senio. Definitely not Senio. Oh man, that is too funny. Billy Bodard in here with the next one. I gotta believe we're going to see Matt get another fine this week for tackling, and Derwin will get suspended for breathing on someone on the sideline. Well, I appreciate the super chat. I don't think Khalil had anything questionable, but then again, the thing he got fined for against the Chiefs was complete bullshit.
That was nuts. Yeah, I couldn't believe it.
I'm
trying to think of the play this week.
I'm struggling to remember any Chargers players that hit with the head this week. I'm sure Denzel probably had one.
They didn't have a penalty, at least for any unnecessary roughness.
Yeah. I think it's complete bullshit that the league will fine players for hits that the referees did not flag.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I get if you're seeing some pretty serious stuff, on the replay, or you're seeing guys twist ankles or whatever, but yeah. Imagine like you think you play a clean game, maybe you win, had a great game, and then suddenly it's a $30,000 fine. So
yeah, like Khalil Mack, like you have a normal rush against Creed Humphrey, nothing malicious, and then you show up to work on Friday and they're like, here's $20,000 fine. Or which running back was it? I want to say it was like Bucky Irving. They fined him for an unnecessary roughness block, and he got like kicked out of the game. So they kicked him out of the game and really? Fined him. And the fine was like basically his entire paycheck.
Yeah, because he fell pretty far.
Yeah, because he was like a 7th round pick. And so they fined him like 40 grand for it, which is like, I think his game check ended up being like 5 grand after that. So the league is
doing well, at least.
Yeah, he's playing well for sure. Do we see a question from John, or was it just the one?
Earlier he had mentioned, he just said thank you for the coverage. So I don't know if there was another one.
Alex says Stephen Hagelin Jr., wide receiver, Carolina Panthers. Not a man. The Hagelin genes will force that son to play a tight end or offensive line. Like those are the only 2 options for us.
Chargers need a center, so
and
get on it.
Like 30 plus years.
Yeah, for sure. We'll scout your son and we'll give him a draft grade.
Oh man, if we're still doing this by that point. We're gonna be like, artificial intelligence podcast at that point.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. That's it for the super chats here. So we appreciate you guys for tuning in and for sending in the super chats. Any other questions or anything that you wanted to touch on, Tyler, before we head out?
No, I think we're all just anticipating this injury report. Happy to celebrate a win, but at what cost? So I'm curious what it looks like. Thankfully, some players did return, so it might not be too bad overall, but very curious how the secondary looks.
Yeah, hoping for positive injury news on the Chargers front. Did you see Aiden Hutchinson's injury?
I refused to watch it all the way through in close detail, but I've heard it's a lot of snapping and grossness.
Yeah, if you are squeamish, do not search Aiden Hutchinson's name on Twitter. It was tough. So,
no, here you go. You got a question from our member here. I think he gets to send in a members only question. What a way to close out the streams.
No, Utah football is on the shit list for the next week or so until they prove that they can actually be a competent football team. So, no playoff. Their season's over. It's bad vibes in the Utah football world.
Unless he means the new NHL team.
Yeah, the NHL team is fantastic. They've scored like 17 goals in the first 3 games and are 3-0. So
holy cow.
Yeah, good vibes for the hockey team.
Yeah, there you go. Good stuff.
Ooh, that's never good. Aiden Hutchinson had to stay in Dallas for emergency surgery.
Ugh. Never good anytime, right? But it sucks when it's the guys who are like the best in the league.
Oh, dude, he had more pressures individually than like 5 NFL teams did together as a team. So it's
probably the Jaguars.
It was nearly the Chargers were on that list. But yeah, he was on his way to being Defensive Player of the Year, and it sucks. It didn't matter for the Lions today, but that's going to matter for them in the long haul because he was just a game-wrecking defensive talent, and so he's unfortunately no stranger to being injured. He dealt with a lot of injuries. I think he actually broke his back, if I'm not mistaken, at Michigan. So he's it sucks, man. I never like to see players get injured, regardless of who they play for. So hopefully he can come back from the surgery and be okay.
Yeah, hopefully Pat Surtain's good too. He's now projected to miss the next game on Thursday too, which is a bummer.
Yeah, that immediately you could tell that he was not right. So
no, it changed the whole game. I really feel like. I mean, did the Chargers win this one? I don't know.
Yeah, tough to tell. So hopefully this is a shorter injury report than we think. Hopefully positive news for Jim Harbaugh's cardiology appointment as well. But yeah, all news is we'll see what happens there. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us today. Appreciate you so much for tuning in. Make sure like, subscribe, comment, all that stuff, because it really help continue to run the show. This has been another episode of the Guilty as Charged podcast. As always, bolt up.